Greetings Africa, as South Africa celebrates all its potential when it comes to attracting visitors, particularly in the business sector. And this is a massively profitable sector for South Africa that is expecting a lot of growth over the coming years. You've seen there's been a lot of effort from government to try and ease up visa regulations and also make it easier for visitors and travelers to come to South Africa, but with a particular emphasis on business people, because I know it's been a big complaint from a lot of business people that it's very difficult to get into South Africa. So hopefully all of this will enhance tourism and create jobs. But, you know, recently there was the International Travel Trade Show that was held in Germany. And this, of course, is a massive trade show, and we are always represented there. And one of the things that my next guest actually said to the people there was saying that tourism is vitally important to the South African economy. It should be sustained and it should have inclusivity for all South Africans. But how do we do that? Let's ask the man himself. Sisa Ntshona is the South African Tourism CEO, and he's with us here on the program. So good to see you. Welcome.
Good morning, and you welcome.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Our first time seeing each other in 2019. It has to be a good year in terms of tourism and travel. There's been so much going on behind the scenes to try and assist. How are you feeling?
I think all the stars are aligned. We've got everything in place. We certainly have the machinery of the greater government starting to put in place basically things like visas, airline connectivity. And I think this is going to be the turning year basically where we really ramp up our tourism numbers, both from leisure side and also from the business side as well.
Yeah. In terms of meetings, I mean, I was talking to the minister a bit earlier and he was giving us a little bit of a glimpse into how massive this industry is. And obviously there's still so much more potential in it to grow.
Absolutely. I mean, we call it bulk acquisition because in one conference you can get something like 15,000 delegates coming down. And you can imagine what that does basically for that local economy. Number of hotel rooms, just the food, the shopping, and every consumption related to that. So it's really a big focus of ours to make sure we get the meetings, exhibitions, and also incentive sector really driving quite hard.
Yeah. I mean, when we look around, I mean, I'm just seeing all the familiar brands, the big hotel chains, the big convention bureaus and centers. What about the little guy? Because that's the one that we really want to see benefiting from all of this.
You know, what you're seeing here is the front end. There's a whole value chain behind it. And I call it the invisible champions that are there. The guys that are actually putting all the detail together, right from your microphones, the carpets, you know, the glasses that we drink from and everything else there. That's part of that ecosystem. And these are the guys that we want to make sure we bring them more to the fore. We compete with global destinations for conferences, so we have to differentiate ourselves. And we use our people, our culture, our flavors, our food to really to become the differentiator. So therefore, it is a bespokeness that we look to the smaller players who will grow over time to make sure that they deliver and be part and parcel of the entire value chain.
Yeah. You know, when we talk about that, I mean, I think it's amazing how you got to get a mind map for people going, because like you say, as much as this is a front, there is so much that goes into hosting meetings. There's team building exercises. You want to take the delegates and the visitors into the cities, into the townships, into wherever it may be, and also let them enjoy that life that people don't necessarily see when they're inside a convention center. I imagine that's also being on display here.
Absolutely. It's all about immersion. You know, so think about it. The physical stature, anyone can deliver that. But it's all the softer stuff that we put around it that makes it different, right? That actually we say, come to South Africa, have your conference, but there's so much more to it as well. You immerse yourself in the culture, you connect with the people, the food, you know, you and I just eat it every single day. But it'd be amazing when you see someone taste something for the very first time. You know, it's really quite exciting. And, you know, the entire ecosystem, you know, things like rigging, things like, you know, the electrical part and everything else. That's where everyone plays a role. And again, it's the stuff that you don't see, but that actually make it happen in the back end.
Yeah. I mean, I know that in one of these rooms, and it's something that sort of I'm into, is the guest speaking, the motivational speaking, and just all of these things. And people don't understand when you're in the eventing world, there are so many ticks that have to be placed on a piece of paper before you can call this a successful event. We obviously compete with a lot of countries on the continent for position and to get visitors. Who would you say is our toughest competition?
Well, I actually don't see them as competition. Because I rather compete with the rest of the world for these conferences, right? And the more we can bring the continent together in terms of delivering global conferences, we actually are winning. Because by its nature, conferences circulate, right? They rotate. So you'll have it this year. If we are leaking it to another African state, it makes me smile. And hence, Meetings Africa is not just about South Africa as well. We also bring in the rest of the continent so they can showcase their capabilities, competencies in hosting these conferences as well.
Yeah, yeah. If we have a look further into sort of into issues that are affecting South Africa, and we can't just pretend that everything is okay. We do have issues that perhaps do scare some visitors away. I know the drought was one of them. Crime certainly is one. What are some of the challenges that we as a country have to deal with in order to sort of tell people, listen, don't worry about that. We've got that covered?
Well, you are absolutely right. We do have what we call barriers. And our attitude is not to pretend they don't exist, but to actually confront them and actually interact with them. The drought is an example where we went out to the world and said, yes, we do have a drought. However, we've got a plan. And guess what now? We are starting to lead globally as to how global cities respond to drought issues. So you take something negative and you turn it all the way around to something positive, right? The world is in a turmoil at the moment. You know, safety and security is on top of everyone's mind. There's terrorism all over the show. Luckily, we don't have that in South Africa, but personal safety is something that's top of mind. So we are actually working quite closely with the police to make sure there's visibility, that there's presence, that tourists actually feel safe moving around in our country as well. You know, visas, birth certificates, all of those things, we have to simplify them and remove the ambiguity or the complexity behind it so that, you know, people can move freely in between our borders, because every tourist that comes through here brings forex. We need forex. We saw what happened in our budget speech, last week. You know, we got to turn those, that plant that the minister had into some lilies, into something red roses.
We need a prettier plant, don't we?
You get what I'm saying, right? But it's about acknowledgement. We're here right now. What are we doing, and how do we make sure that we drive this performance that we look for?
All right. Just finally, you travel around. You go to all of these shows around the world that are also sort of tourist shows. When you showcase South Africa, what is the reaction from a lot of the international visitors?
I get told all the time that South Africa's secret weapon is not its beautiful infrastructure, its weather, its scenic beauty, it's its people, right? And there's just something infectious about us. The way we greet, the way we talk, the way we dance and everything else there is really welcoming. And I really want to encourage all of South Africa, even if you're not in tourism, please be in tourism. Greet foreigners, greet tourists, show them directions, help them around, and I promise you, we'll be an awesome economy going forward.
So right, Sisa, thank you very, very much for talking to us here on Morning Live. Sisa Ntshona, of course, is the CEO of South African Tourism. And that is one thing that makes me smile, is whenever you see a tourist interacting with a local, and it's wonderful. It really is. I've spent far too much time in Cape Town actually traveling up and down, and to just see how the locals interact, you can't but fall in love with South Africa. If you fall in love with the people, you fall in love with the country, and that's a fact. All right, let's take a break. We'll have more from Meetings Africa after this.